Hello, everybody. As 2025 draws to a close, I thought I'd take this opportunity to try and give some insight as to what our expectations are for 2026. We'll go into a little more detail by each product, but the overall picture for our standard polymers range, which is polyethylene, polypropylene, and polystyrene, is one of relatively weak demand coupled with oversupply. A formula that, barring any major global issues, is likely to keep prices relatively low through 2026. So specifically looking at polyethylene, increased global capacity, more imports against a backdrop of a forecasted demand growth of around about 0.1% for virgin polyethylene in Europe. By 2030, we will have 30 million metric tons of new polyethylene capacity coming on stream, mainly in China and the Middle East. That's a 25% increase on current capacity levels, whilst global demand is growing in the low single digits. We've already seen significant imports of US material into Europe, and as protectionist measures now seem unlikely, that is expected to grow further in 2026. This will put further pressure on European producers who, with a largely naphtha-based supply chain, are at a big commercial disadvantage to ethane-based production. It seems inevitable that we will see further rationalisation throughout the European petrochemical supply chain. There are already several planned closures of steam crackers in the coming years, reducing European capacity by 12%. A further 13% of the capacity is for sale, and close to 4 million metric tons of ethylene capacity is considered high risk by recent reports. It's simply too expensive to keep making things here. It sounds quite gloomy, but there are a few pinches of optimism, and we may see the new PPWR, Packaging and Packaging Waste Regulation, driving some changes as it influences packaging design choices. Dam gauging and lightweighting will become more important and drive innovation. It may also push demand for easier to recycle monomaterial structures. So looking now at polypropylene, it's a similar story to polyethylene, with capacity increases far outstripping demand growth. China has added 3 to 4 million tons of new capacity each year since the pandemic, and in 2025 it added over 5 million tons of polypropylene capacity. According to ICIS, China now has 138 companies producing polypropylene. It has over 50 million metric tons of capacity and is clearly now a net exporter of polypropylene. This is putting a lot of pressure on producers in Southeast Asia who had well-established markets in China. They are now looking to Europe to take their capacity. Adding to this is 8.5 million metric tons of new capacity in the Middle East coming on stream before 2030. Not all of this is suitable for the European market, grades like homopolymer raffia and things like that. So we do have some protection because of performance grades of PP copolymer into engineering applications. But it seems clear that polypropylene prices will stay relatively low in 2026 and beyond. What may change this will be an acceleration to the rationalisation we are already seeing in Europe, with plants closing or being sold. Demand improvement in Europe seems quite unlikely, with automotive facing considerable challenges, like the growth in the popularity of Chinese-made EVs dampening automotive demand. Similar weak demand in construction and appliances. Where we may see improvement is again in packaging, as with polyethylene, PPWR may see growth in polypropylene packaging as a lighter weight becomes more important. Differentiated grades may be a key factor. So looking now at polystyrene, and again it's a familiar story of overcapacity and muted demand. We are globally overcapacity in styrene monomer, and there is roughly 800,000 metric tons of new capacity scheduled to be added each year for the next 5 years. Polystyrene is also set to grow from a global capacity of around about 15.6 million tons last year to 16.75 million tons in 2026. Almost 60% of capacity is now in the Asia-Pacific region. Looking to Europe, and we have a cost reduction and consolidation picture. 635,000 tons of styrene monomer is going, with the closure of the Lyondell-Basel Covestro plant in the Netherlands, and polystyrene capacity is also being rationalised, with Trinseo closing a plant in Germany and INEOS closing a plant in France, with both consolidating operations at other sites in Belgium. This should get local markets a little more in balance, though it may make the industry a little bit more susceptible to supply blips should any of these plants go down unexpectedly. In terms of demand, it's a slightly mixed picture. Whilst expanded polystyrene is banned in single-use food containers, there is hope that a push for energy efficiency in homes will drive demand for expanded polystyrene in construction. As with other packaging materials, PPWR should drive innovation. So to finish off, just a few words on recycled. And 2025 has been a truly terrible year for the industry, with multiple closures and some major companies pulling back on investments. Whilst the long-term future should be better, with mandatory targets for minimum recycled content gradually increasing through to 2040, the short-term future looks very challenging as we continue with very low virgin prices, softening demand for recycled. Hard to see this picture changing much in 2026, and the industry will need government investment to help keep the capacity in the system for when it's needed. All that remains is for me to wish you a very happy Christmas and a great 2026. Thanks for your attention.